Yes, good morning, all of you. Good to see you all again. Ciao. So, last session we talked about the light reaction, and today we talk about the dark reaction. Light reaction was the conversion of solar energy, light energy, into ATPs and NADPH2. So solar energy got trapped in the form of ATP and NADPH2, and dark energy is the process in which carbon dioxide combines with water and takes the energy from ATP and NADPH2 and converts that bond energy into C6H12O6. Solar energy is highly unstable. ATP and NADPH2 are relatively stable, but glucose is highly stable. So by light reaction, we convert solar energy into ATP and NADPH2. But it being relatively stable cannot be completely stored in a plant. तो उसको ATP और NADPH2 को कन्वर्ट करा जाता है कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड और वाटर के साथ into a stable molecule called as glucose, and glucose is then converted into starch, and plants store solar energy in the form of starch. That starch is then consumed by us. So what is the conversion of solar energy into ATP and NADPH2 called as light reaction? And what is the conversion of relatively stable ATP and NADPH2 into highly stable glucose called as dark reaction? Where does light reaction take place? In the grana, in the thylakoids, in the quantosomes, using photosystems PS1 and PS2, and ATP and NADPH2 are formed in the grana. From the grana, ATP and NADPH2 will go into the stroma of the chloroplast. In the stroma, carbon dioxide with water using ATP and NADPH2 will become C6H12O6. So where does light reaction take place? In the grana. Where does dark reaction take place? In the stroma. Let's revise a little about the light reaction again. Light reaction, I'm sure you remember, are of two types: cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. You have cyclic photophosphorylation, and then we have non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So these are two types. Where does cyclic photophosphorylation take place? In PS1, photosystem 1, which is called P700. And this is present on the outer membrane of the thylakoids and on the intergranal lamellae. Here we have PS1, photosystem 1. And how will this take place? When light falls into a leaf, it passes through the peristromium, goes into the grana. In the grana, passes into a thylakoid. Thylakoid say it will pass into quantosomes, or quantosomes have in them photosystem, of which PS1 or P700 is the photosystem which gets excited at 700 nanometer wavelength of light. So Vibgyor, visible spectrum, Vibgyor में 360, which is violet, all the way till 760, which is red. Vibgyor 700 नैनोमीटर के वेवलेंथ पे the chlorophyll A shoots out its electron and hence it is called as P700 or photosystem 1. When light falls on photosystem 1 at 700 nanometer wavelength, electron is shot out with energy. This electron is accepted by Z, which is called as ferredoxine reducing substance. Electron goes from Z to ferredoxine. Ferredoxine has got greater reduction power or greater redox potential compared to Z. So Z से ज्यादा electronegative ferredoxine है. It has got greater redox potential. From ferredoxine, electron goes to cytochrome B6. From cytochrome B6 to cytochrome F. From cytochrome F to plastocyanine. But सबसे ज्यादा electronegative with the highest redox potential is photosystem 700 itself. So on losing electron, P700 had become P700 plus, and P700 plus has the greatest affinity for electron. It will accept its own electron back, and from excited state it comes back to a ground state. So P700 plus again becomes P700. It will again become P700. And this means electron जाता है, घूम फिर के वापस photosystem 1 के पास आता है. Hence the process is called as cyclic photophosphorylation. While passing from one electron acceptor to the other, there is dissipation of energy. Electrons liberate energy, and every step energy is liberated, but in the passing of electron from ferredoxine to cytochrome B6, electron liberates sufficient energy that ADP and IP trap in between them 7.3 kilocalories of energy to form a molecule of ATP. तो फेरिडॉक्सिन और साइटोक्रोम B6 के बीच में एक ATP बनता है. From cytochrome B6 to cytochrome F, again ADP and IP trap in between them energy to form a molecule of ATP. Hence, two ATPs are formed in cyclic photophosphorylation. Two ATPs are formed, that is between ferredoxine and cytochrome B6 and cytochrome B6 and cytochrome F. तो दो ATP बन जाते हैं. And what is this process of 2 ATP formation called as? 2 ATP formation is called as 1, and 2 ATP formation is called as cyclic photophosphorylation. Then we have non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Non-cyclic photophosphorylation will take place inside the thylakoid again. But if you remember, in the thylakoid, we have two membranes. On the inner membrane is found photosystem 2. And on the outer membrane is found photosystem 1. So, PS1 and PS2 both are involved. And when light falls on photosystem 2 at 680 nanometer wavelength will shoot out its electron. And PS1 जो outer membrane पे है, we know it already, at 700 nanometer shoots out its electron. तो PS2 और PS1 दोनों में photon गिरता है and both will emit electron. The electron emitted from PS2 is accepted by Q. Q is quinone, and quinone से electron will go to plastoquinone. From plastoquinone to cytochrome B6, then to cytochrome F, and then to plastocyanine. But in the meantime, PS1 also releases its electron, which is accepted by Z. And from Z, it is accepted by ferridoxine. So, अगर हम लोग pause करते हैं, PS2 का electron has gone to plastocyanine. तो PS2 का इलेक्ट्रॉन किसके पास है? प्लास्टोसियानिन के पास. और PS1 का इलेक्ट्रॉन किसके पास है? फेरिडॉक्सिन के पास. और पॉज को वापस प्ले करते हैं. नाउ PS2 on losing electron is ionized. PS1 on losing electron is ionized. And both PS2 and PS1 are not in ground state, they are in ionized state. Now, from plastocyanine, the electron can go back to PS2. अगर electron वापस PS2 पे आ जाएगा, then the process becomes cyclic. But electron does not go to PS2, electron goes to PS1 because PS1 has got greater electronegativity compared to PS2. It has got greater redox potential compared to PS2. So electron from plastocyanine goes to PS1. And PS1 electron now is with ferridoxine. It cannot return back to PS1 because PS1 has already accepted electron of PS2 and come back from ionized state back to ground state. So, where will the electron go? From ferridoxine, the electron is accepted by NADP. And NADP accepts the electron and gets reduced to NADP minus. So, PS2 का electron has gone to PS1 and PS1 का electron has gone to NADP and has become NADP minus. So, PS1 electron is with NADP and PS2 electron is with PS1. So, this is a non-cyclic process. Abhi PS1 has got the electron from PS2 and come back to ground state. But PS1 is still in an ionized state. So, water will split. H2O will split to form H plus and OH minus. And OH minus will give away electron and become OH. And electron will go to PS2 and bring back PS2 to a ground state. So, where is the flow of electron? Electron has gone from water to PS2. From PS2, electron has gone to PS1. And from PS1, the electron has gone to NADP. So, water का electron PS2 के पास, PS2 का electron PS1 के पास, PS1 का electron NADP के पास. This is a complete non-cyclic process. And while the electron passed from cytochrome B6 to cytochrome F, energy was dissipated, which combined with ADP and IP to form ATP. So PS2 to PS1 energy बनती है, that is ATP is formed. This process takes place 4 times. In other words, 4 photons fall on PS2 and 4 photons fall on PS1 and 4 electrons pass from PS2 to PS1 and 4 electrons go to ferridoxine and one NADP accepts 2 electrons. So 2 NADPs will accept 4 electrons. 2 NADPs will accept 4 electrons. And 4 photolysis of water take place to form 4H plus and 4OH minus. जिसमें से बनेंगे 4OH and 4 electrons bring PS2 back to ground state. तो ये प्रोसेस कितनी बार होता है? 4 non-cyclic photophosphorylation. How many photons are used? 8 photons of light. How many H2Os are split? 4 H2O. And what will they do? 4 H2O split to form 4H plus 4OH minus. 4H plus combined with 2 NADP minus 2. If you remember, each NADP accepts 2 electrons. And 4H plus 2 NADP plus 2 NADP minus 2 will form 2 NADPH2. And NADPH2s are rich in energy. NADPs are rich in energy. NADPH2, why are they rich in energy? Because they have got electrons emitted from PS1. तो इन इलेक्ट्रॉन्स के पास एनर्जी थी, so NADPH2 is rich in energy and 4H2O has become 4OH minus, which has become 4 electron, brought 4 PS2s back to ground state, and we have 4OH form. 4OH form 2H2O and O2. And O2 is liberated as free gas. So, once again, 4 photons PS2, 4 photons PS1, 4 electrons shot out, 4 electrons shot out, 4 non-cyclic processes, 4 non-cyclic process form 4 ATP and 4 electrons combined with 2 NADP to form 2 NADP minus minus, 4 photolysis of water to form 4H plus, 4OH minus, 4OH minus donate 4 electron to PS2 and form 4H, 4OH, 4OH form 2H2O and release oxygen as free gas, and 4 H pluses combined with 2 NADP minus minus to form 2 NADPH2, and 2 NADPH2s are formed which are rich in energy. तो ये energy rich NADPH2 बनते हैं, and that means 4 non-cyclic photophosphorylations use 8 photons of light splitting 4 waters to form 2 NADPH2, 4 ATP, 2 H2O and 1 O2. This is non-cyclic photophosphorylation. What is the number of photons required to liberate one oxygen molecule? Number of photons required to liberate one oxygen molecule. If you remember, 4 non-cyclic processes, 4 non-cyclic processes. In other words, PS2 के लिए 4 photons and PS1 के लिए 4 photons, and a total of 4 non-cyclic processes will have 4 photolysis of water to liberate one oxygen molecule. So to liberate one oxygen molecule, 4 photons plus 4 photons, in other words, 4 non-cyclic processes, 8 number of photons are used to liberate one oxygen molecule, which is called as the quantum requirement. So this was cyclic and non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Where did this process take place? In the grana. Then we have light reaction. That was called light reaction. Then we have dark reaction. Dark reaction is the secondary process of photosynthesis. Light reaction is called primary process. Light reaction is called primary process. And light reaction is the primary process which converts solar energy into assimilatory powers. Solar energy into assimilatory power. Which are the assimilatory power? ATP and NADPH2. इसमें energy trapped है, so it is called assimilatory power. And this is called primary reaction. Where does this take place? In the grana. ये किधर होता है? Grana. And then we have or light reaction. So this is called light reaction. Then we have dark reaction. What is dark reaction called? Secondary process, in which assimilatory power, that is ATP and NADPH2, assimilatory power ATP and NADPH2 combined with CO2 and H2O, and इसमें जितनी भी energy है gets trapped between CO2 and H2O to form C6H12O6. In other words, glucose is formed, and glucose is rich in energy. And what is this process called as? Dark reaction. This is called as dark reaction. Where does dark reaction take place? In the stroma. Dark reaction takes place in the stroma. So, where does primary process or light reaction take place? Primary process or light reaction takes place in the grana. In the grana. Light reaction. In the grana. What is formed by light reaction? ATP and NADPH2. And where will ATP and NADPH2 go from? From grana, it will go into the stroma. From grana, it will move into the stroma. And in the stroma, what will take place? Stroma में होगा dark reaction. Stroma is where there will be dark reaction. Dark reaction. And what will ATP NADPH2 do? It will combine with CO2 and H2O to form glucose. To form glucose. So, where does light reaction take place? In the grana, and that is called primary process, in which grana के अंदर what is formed by light reaction? ATP and NADPH2. And where do ATP and NADPH2 go from? Grana. From grana, they will move into stroma. And in the stroma, what will ATP and NADPH2 combine with? Carbon dioxide and water. With carbon dioxide and water, and what does it form? Glucose. And what is that process called as? Dark reaction. What is that process called as? Dark reaction. The secondary process of photosynthesis, also called biochemical process. Light reaction was called photochemical process. Dark reaction is called biochemical process, because उसमें ATP, NADPH2 get converted into chemical energy. ATP and NADPH2 are called as biological energy. Biological energy. And biological energy, ATP, NADPH2, gets converted into C6H12O6, which is called chemical energy. So what is the process called as? Biochemical. The process is called as biochemical. And biochemical process is also called Calvin cycle or C3 cycle. So what is the cycle of dark reaction called as? Calvin cycle, also called C3 cycle. तो ये process Calvin cycle, also called C3 cycle होती है. And इसमें what is the principle? It is a synthetic process in which carbon dioxide is converted into carbohydrates, and it takes place in the stroma and is independent of light. It is independent of light, hence it is called as dark reaction, also called Blackman's reaction. It is independent of light, but does it take place in the dark? क्या dark reaction dark रात को होता है? Will it take place in the night? No, because what is dark reaction actually using? ATP and NADPH2, and they are formed in daytime, and ATP and NADPH2 cannot be stored in the night. तो सुबह बन के रात तक स्टोर नहीं हो सकता है. It has to be converted into glucose immediately. So dark reaction does not directly use light. Dark reaction does not directly use light. Hence it is independent of light. Hence it is called dark reaction. But it does not take place in the night. It takes place in the daytime only. It is only called dark reaction because it does not depend on sunlight. It depends on ATP and NADPH2. So it is independent of sunlight. So it is called dark reaction. But hota night mein nahi hai. It takes place in the daytime only. So when will dark reaction take place? In the daytime. Though it is called dark reaction, does not take place at night, takes place in the daytime. And सबसे पहले it was a scientist Melvin Calvin who traced it by using a unicellular algae chlorella and a radioactive isotope 14C. तो 14C नाम का isotope Melvin Calvin ने algae में डाला. If you remember, algae are excellent for photosynthesis. So what did Melvin Calvin do? He took C14, and C14 was then put into carbon dioxide. C14 was put into carbon dioxide, और उससे जितने भी कार्बन कंपाउंड्स बनते गए, हर एक कार्बन कंपाउंड में C14 मिला. And using C14, he found out कौन से chemicals बनते हैं, which are the chemicals formed using C14. So he traced the names of all the chemicals. As a matter of fact, he found out something called RUDP, then 3-PGA, 1,3-dipga, 3-PGAL, erythrose, xylulose, pseudoheptulose, RUMP. ये सब steps of dark reaction है. सबके अंदर कौन सा कार्बन आ गया? C14. And C14 is an isotope. So isotope can be easily traced. So using something called isotope tracer technique, he traced down all the different chemicals which are formed in the dark reaction. Using isotope tracer technique, traced down all the chemicals found in the dark reaction. Hence, he was given a Nobel Prize in 1961 for the same. And after fixation of carbon dioxide, the first stable compound formed is a 3-carbon phosphoglyceric acid. Hence, the pathway is also called C3 pathway. तो सबसे पहले जब कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एक्सेप्ट होता है, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड is accepted and it forms a 3-carbon compound called as 3-phosphoglyceric acid. So 3-phosphoglyceric acid is the first stable compound formed. And how many carbons in it? 3 carbon. Hence the pathway is called C3 pathway. If you remember, in respiration we had done the first stable compound formed in TCA cycle was citric acid. So we called it as citric acid cycle. Similarly, the first stable compound formed after accepting carbon dioxide is 3-carbon phosphoglyceric acid. So the cycle can be called phosphoglyceric acid pathway, which is the 3-carbon compound. Hence, it is also called as C3 pathway. So let's understand now the details of this beautiful logic called as dark reaction.